How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with Alex and Ryan. I'm back. Finally have a base, so I'll be on the podcast more frequently. I know you guys miss me so very much. And this Yankee season has been fun lately, a little bit less fun. Injuries are starting to pick up. Trent Grisham likely headed to the IL. If you're watching this now, he probably already has been announced that he is on the injured list with that left hamstring tightness. So that's obviously a big blow. Austin Wells missing a couple days with that artery problem in his finger, but he says he's fine. JC Escar is starting today with Max Fried on the mound. So, we're going to talk about a relief pitcher that we think the Yankees could be targeting, or Ryan has heard maybe interest from months back about something interesting that the Yankees like, Yohan Duran of the Minnesota Twins. And this is an interesting pitcher nonetheless. His underlying metrics are phenomenal. His overlying metrics are phenomenal. This guy is a star. And I think that if the Yankees want to get a legitimate high leverage arm to pair with Devin Williams, pair with Luke Weaver, this guy is that guy. And I really think that if they want to make a big splash, I do think they need an infielder. That's a topic for another episode. But bullpen is a need. Mark Leiter Jr. has been struggling. Johnny Lowe's had his volatile performances. And altogether, I think the Yankees need another big high leverage arm they can lean on. Fernando Cruz just hit the IL. That could be a lengthy spell. What are your thoughts on Duran? What are your thoughts on his game, how he'd fit into his bullpen, obviously the financial implications of acquiring him?
Yeah, so last trade deadline, the Yankees displayed interest in acquiring Yohan Duran from the Minnesota Twins. And one would imagine with the Yankees' persistent bullpen issues, this is the second game the New York Yankees have blown in the last week. And it's not looking like it's going to get any better. Even when, you have Luke Weaver back, you still feel like you're struggling to get to those two guys. Fernando Cruz now has a high-grade oblique strain. He was probably your third best reliever. He's now on the IL. You don't have that bridge to Weaver and Williams. And with Yohan Duran, he's not just a bridge. He is a DEFCON 10 solution. He is a guy with a 1.69 ERA this season. He hasn't allowed a home run all year. He has a 72.3% ground ball rate. Alex, the highest in baseball. Fastball velocity, 100.3 miles an hour on average. His stuff is gross. This is one of the grossest pitchers in baseball. Ridiculously high velocity. Unbelievable ability to limit damage contact because he throws so hard. He has this splitter kind of pitch sitting 97. Just imagine a splitter sinker hybrid at 97 miles per hour. That's disgusting. And a knuckle curveball, which is one of the best breaking balls in Major League Baseball. Look, I understand you don't want to pay a premium for a closer, but I think that works financially. When you look at trying to contend for the World Series and going all in, that means pushing in all your chips and getting the best players available. And you're the New York Yankees, and you should be looking to get the best players available. Now, you might go, why would the Minnesota Twins trade their star closer to the New York Yankees? Well, number one, the Twins are 40-44. They've completely fallen off a cliff after winning 13 straight or something like that earlier in the year. And number two, Yohan Duran is now arbitration eligible for the second time in 2026. He's currently making $4.1 million. The odds of him getting a raise are, it's 100%. He's going to get a raise. So he might be making $8 to $9 million next year. Now for the Yankees, $8 to $9 million for Yohan Duran is excellent value. For the Minnesota Twins, $8 to $9 million for a relief pitcher is not good. They do not want to be paying that. The Minnesota Twins do not want someone that they're going to be paying a considerable chunk of their payroll to, probably around 10% of their payroll to close games. They would rather spend that on bats or starting pitching. And the Yankees can supply the Minnesota Twins with a couple of things, most notably starting pitching. I know Cam Schnittler has dominated at the upper levels of the minor leagues. I would be stunned if the Minnesota Twins did not show at least some level of interest in acquiring him to pair in their rotation. Chris Paddock is their current 5-starter. He stinks. Bailey Ober is their 4-starter. He's not much better. David Festa and Simeon Woods Richardson have not displayed the upside to be number 2 or number 3 caliber starters, we're being honest. Simeon Woods Richardson, 4.63 ERA, a 4.32 FIP. He is now entering his age 24-5 season next year. He has not shown any signs of being a frontline caliber pitcher. David Festa this year, 5.40 ERA. He's a good prospect, but again, the stuff isn't really overwhelming. He sits, his stuff plus of 92 is well below average for a starting pitcher. So, Alex, you know what you're getting in Yohan Duran. It's a superstar. And for Minnesota, financially, they may want to get off of him at sooner rather than later.
Yeah, listen, the Yankees, like you mentioned, have a couple guys to potentially pay next year. Devin Williams, I imagine, probably walks in free agency because they have to also make a decision on Luke Weaver. I think they'll probably look to keep Weaver, fan favorite guy. and whatnot. But who knows? Maybe they bring back both, one of them. But Yohan Duran is a difference maker. I think that the Yankees can't go into this trade deadline thinking we can just survive. We can just get a lesser arm there or a underlying metrics arm there. This guy that they need to think about where they are right now. And Aaron Judge is having one of the best seasons we've ever seen. The first year of Max Fried's deal, he is lighting it up. He is replacing Garrett Cole and then some, having an even better season than Cole has had. In the past, obviously, aside from his Cy Young Award year, but even then, like Max Fried could pitch a lot of innings. He hasn't, knock on wood. I'm not going to say anything more than that. I do think that right now the Yankees have a window of opportunity. Their offense is capable of elite performance. They're going through a bit of a cold stretch right now. You have bad months. Sometimes months, are down with runners in scoring position. The Mets are going through something similar as we speak. So, it happens. Baseball is a game of attrition. Who can last the longest? Who can get hot at the right time? June does not determine October, right? Yeah, they've squandered a lead in the AL East, but they could just as quickly pick it back up. They could just as quickly go on an 8-game win streak and suddenly be 6 games up over the Rays. That's how baseball works. I'm not too concerned about it. The Yankees are a very good team, and I think they need to get better in some key categories. Duran gives you the opportunity to have 3 elite bullpen arms. In the playoffs, when you have a 3-man rotation that's going to look like Fried, it's going to look like Carlos Rodon, and it might be Clark Schmidt or Luis Heel, depending on if they go out and get another starting pitcher. I think you probably can only expend enough assets to get a big-time relief pitcher and an infielder. I don't think they'll go get a big starting pitcher if they go that route. But with that being said, if the rotation looks like a Fried, Rodon, Schmidt / somebody else type situation, you need to have your bullpen ready to rock. Duran, Weaver, Williams, they will provide. They will be your just mayhem creators for opposing bats. And I think that, that's a way to supplement. Like you can get a relief pitcher for far less than a starting pitcher in some facets, but maybe not. Maybe, and I'll ask you this, Ryan. I think this is an interesting question. If it comes between getting a relief pitcher or getting a starter, a starter on a good starter on an expiring contract may be cheaper to acquire than a star relief pitcher. Who's more expensive? Who's more valuable? And are you going to go for the guy on an expiring contract that might cost you less assets? Or are you going to go with the controllable relief arm might cost you more, but you also have him for a couple seasons? But, it's kind of an interesting thing. Win now or, potentially win later for more assets.
Look, I'll take winning now over controllable assets, but I think the advantage you have with a guy like Duran is that you're not just acquiring, he's a guy who's going to be here for a couple of years. That's obviously the benefit, and let's be honest, that should matter to the Yankees at the closer position because both Devin Williams and Luke Weaver are free agents, and the odds of the Yankees signing both are unbelievably low. And this bullpen is already battered enough. Loizaga will hit free agency. Tim Hill has a club option, but, you have to project Tim Hill in 2026. I don't think he's going to project very well. And if you look at the Yankees' biggest issues, it's the bullpen. It's not the rotation. The Yankee rotation, top 5 in strikeout rate, top 5 in WAR, top 5 in, a FIP, top 5 in basically every underlying metric. This is a very good rotation and a rotation that has remained strong even with a plethora of injuries. Would I like them to get a starter if they can? Absolutely. But I want an infielder and I need this bullpen to be reinforced. The Yankees are not losing baseball games this year because of their rotation. In fact, since April, they have not lost games because of this rotation. Since maybe the first 2 weeks, really since Carlos Carrasco got cut off the roster and since Will Warren finally figured it out, right? Going into the year, the problem with the rotation was that you didn't know what Rodon was. You didn't know what you were going to get from Clark Schmidt because he was hurt on the IL. Will Warren was not very effective early in the season, but he's gotten better. I expect him to be better than April Will Warren. And Carlos Carrasco, for lack of better terms, stinks. He's old. He's washed. He's cooked. So I think this bullpen is a bigger problem. I don't think it's they're talented and they just need to put it together thing. I don't think this group is that good. I think that's where I'm at with this bullpen. I expected them to be better this year. They have not been. I expected this group to be more reliable. They are not. I expect this group to be a little bit healthier. They are not. And even then, the health outcomes have been pretty good. Weaver missed a couple of weeks. Fine. You've had Devin Williams all year. Cruz, that's been the big injury you've dealt with in the bullpen, but Loizaga's been healthy. Hill's been healthy. Leiter's been healthy, and he's throwing harder. Like, there are a lot of things that have gone right for you in that bullpen, and you still don't have a very strong bullpen. You do not have a bullpen that you feel very comfortable closing games with. It's not a terrible group. It's not the worst group in baseball, but it's their most mediocre. Now, I still want an infielder. I think an infielder is perhaps the biggest priority of them all. And if you ask me would I rather have a good infielder and like good relievers, not Yohan Duran level, I'll take that over Yohan Duran and nothing else. But should you be shopping at the top of the reliever market? Yes, because you're the New York Yankees. Because it's that simple. You're the New York Yankees. Now, I know the Yankee farm system isn't as strong as it's been in years past, and that's going to hurt them at the deadline. But I also think that the reliever market, like, it's very rare that relievers get traded for like George Lombard Jr. Like, that's not going to happen. So the last like big reliever trade that required a top prospect was Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman. That was almost a decade ago. It's not going to happen again. The Yankees aren't going to have to trade George Lombard Jr. And if they do have to trade a Cam Schlittler or a Carlos Legrand for a Yohan Duran, you know what? You're getting a star closer and you're getting him for 2.5 years. Like, you trade one of them for him, who cares? In my opinion, I think they're both good prospects, but like, I want to win baseball games. That's my priority. Now, what I would say is that if you wanted to get 2 good relievers instead of 1 great one, I think you could sell me on that. But again, Alex, this bullpen, that's the pitching problem. That is it right there. When you try and get to Williams and Weaver, once you get there, you're fine. But when you try to get there after your starter, man, it's a real wonderland right now, and not in a good way. It's a real, I mean, Aaron Boone, he can press as many buttons as he wants. If Mark Leiter Jr. is not going to throw the ball consistently, if Loaiza is not going to throw the ball consistently, if Anthony Volpe is going to throw the ball around the infield, if you're going to squander runner and scoring position opportunities, manager can only do so much. But when you have leads, you need to win those games. And right now, this bullpen's not doing that right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's two paths the Yankees are gonna take here. One of them is the route of let's just go get the best arm possible, which would be Duran in this instance. To feature as a primary high leverage guy. The other option is cheaper, very hyper specific arms that maybe have higher velocity, or a lefty, or somebody that has good chase rates or whiff rates. Like somebody that's specific metrics that they're like, we need to improve in these metrics. These are the guys that help us improve in those things. So that's the cheaper alternative, guys who are struggling in other areas, but are good in other areas, like that balance. Or you just go for the star. So those are the two. We've seen the Yankees usually go down the first path, which is hyper specific arms that they try to turn into much more productive pieces. And it has worked for them in the past, to be fair. Now, do you risk that in a high leverage situation? A lot of times those arms are coming from teams like the Reds, or they're coming from teams like the White Sox. They're coming from bad baseball teams, and usually bad baseball teams, what comes with that? A lack of playoff experience. So then you're throwing these hyper specific arms into World Series games that they cannot even fathom. So it's like, it's a lot more of a psychological game when you get into the playoffs and you're like, okay, can this guy hold his own having never pitched in a playoff game, let alone the World Series? It becomes less about stuff and a lot more about psychology at that point. So, these are things I think the Yankees think about, or maybe not if it's all numbers based, but I do think it's something they should consider, because getting someone, not that Duran has been, elite in the playoffs, but this guy is just good enough. Like, his stats are so good that he kind of surpasses that. He kind of like hovers above that psychological threshold. So I think that'll be interesting to see what avenue they take. But one thing is for certain, infield, and we'll have an episode about this. I know, trade deadline's coming up in about 4 weeks here. We'll talk about trade packages. We'll talk about players. We'll talk about good fits. I think Ryan and you and I agree. Eugenio Suarez would be an awesome fit for the Yankees. Is he a great defender? No, maybe he's average, but the guy hits bombs. And the Yankees, what they don't need? DJ LeMahieu right now. He is dragging ass at the moment. His slugging rate's 319 or something like that. He's not hitting the ball, and with power, his expected slugging rate's nothing to be excited about. His batting average, whatever, like, there's just nothing there. There's no damage contact coming from DJ LeMahieu, and trading for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa doesn't push the needle for me right now. Like, it's not enough. We need someone with some pop, in my opinion, to help offset the just inconsistencies of Anthony Volpe, and also Paul Goldschmidt going through what is right now a pretty bad cold stretch. So I think he'll bounce back. I'm not too worried about Paulie, but I do think that Volpe's game it's concerning. It's a thing that Ryan and I were talking about that we'll have an episode on in of itself. But the Yankees need some more pop in the infield. Suarez would be my dream acquisition, but that's assuming the Diamondbacks are willing to sell, and also if the Yankees have enough firepower in their in their farm system to actually get him in the first place.
Yeah, the one thing I'd like to know, I also think with the bullpen, I mean, if you want to look back at the World Series, Alex, and I know that's a painful memory for Yankee fans, the Yankees held leads in 2 of their 4 losses in the World Series. Their bullpen took the loss in 2 games that they lost. Jake Cousins came in, had a 1-run lead, couldn't get the job done. Walked Gavin Lux, just couldn't get the job done. And Nestor has to come in because you were short on bullpen depth, and you lose the game. Then in game 5, Tommy Kahnle comes in, walks the ballpark. Weaver gives up 2 sac flies. Yankees don't scratch across the 6th run to tie the game. I don't think people have talked enough about how the bullpen, outside of Weaver and Holmes last year, was very unreliable. It was not a surefire thing when Tim Hill as well. Tim Hill was brilliant that postseason. Mark Leonard Jr. had some sack up outings. He sacked up and he delivered some strong outings, but you didn't want to rely on that. You had games where Jake Cousins was unreliable. You had games where you needed to put a fire out and you couldn't do it. You had games where against Cleveland, it got closer than it should have. You had games against the Dodgers that you lost. You just straight up lost them because of your bullpen, because your bullpen stunk in that World Series. It was not good enough in that World Series. I know people are going to say, well, you got to think of the Judge drop fly ball, and that does matter. You got to think of his play in the World Series before Game 5, which was bad. There's a lot of other variables. Their runner and scoring position at bats were terrible that postseason. I get it. But the Yankees had 2 leads late game and couldn't hold it. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if the bullpen's been the bullpen, like the best bullpen in baseball kind of bullpen since, I mean, really, I don't know when. Last year didn't feel like they were that dominant of a group. They were a good group, but not dominant in the postseason. It kind of showed. And this year, you kind of feel the same way. And you know, some of the metrics I like to point out when it comes to, bullpen success rate is win probability added. The Yankees are 12th. Their bullpen's 12th. So that means that they are relatively average in terms of win probability added. And then I looked at clutch. So like that is Fangraph's way of measuring how well you perform in higher leverage situations relative to your normal performance. So if it's negative, that means you get worse in big spots. Negative 0.39 clutch for the Yankee bullpen. So they perform worse in high leverage situations. Part of that can be luck, can just kind of be things that happen. Part of it can be some of these guys are more lower leverage or middle leverage reliever guys. They need support in that group. I get it. You know, Matt Blake can kind of turn anybody into anybody. You can turn anybody into a somebody, a nobody into a somebody, whatever you want to call it. But it would be nice to have some established talent. Alex, it'd be nice to be able to take a lead in a World Series game and feel like, yeah, we're going to win it. Because if the Yankees win Game 1 and win Game 5, they probably win the World Series. And you and I are talking about the reigning World Series reigning World Series champion New York Yankees. If that bullpen was just a little bit better, if you had Yohan Duran on that team, you might have won the World Series. Plain and simple. So when I hear people say, "Hey, you don't want to pay that much for a reliever," I get it. I also like winning. I want to win a World Series. Sure, you might lose the WAR value in a trade. Like you might give away more WAR than you get. Who cares if you win the World Series? Do you think the Red Sox like celebrate? We won the Alex Verdugo trade. We're going to get more WAR in that trade. Who cares? Alex Verdugo wasn't even good for the Yankees, but who cares? I don't know, like Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman. The Yankees won the WAR value. Cubs won the World Series. You think they care? No. So you gotta push your chips in to win. And you are only going to get so many cracks at this with Max Fried and Aaron Judge and Carlos Rodon all playing at this level. And you're not going to have Darren Williams next year, probably, if he gets a big deal. You may not have Luke Weaver next year, because if a team throws $80 million at Luke Weaver, are the Yankees signing him? Yeah, no, I don't think so. And you might go, oh, no one's going to throw $80 million at him. You don't know. You never know. I didn't think Clay Holmes was leaving after 2022. They did. I didn't think Gleyber Torres was just going to walk away for $12 million, and he did. I didn't think Soto was going to leave. I thought he was going to stay. He left. You don't know what your chances look like. I thought Garrett Cole's going to be here this year. He's not. Right? You never know how many chances you're going to get at this thing, Alex. You never know. So you got to go all in when you can. And again, if Duran's there at the right price, got to get the job done. Got to go get a job done because he'd make you that much better.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if anything, I learned anything from last offseason when Soto left is that the Yankees, it doesn't matter that they're the Yankees anymore. Players are just going for top dollar. You know what I mean? They're just going for the money. It doesn't matter who you are, and teams are paying up. The Blue Jays are looking to spend all the time. Like the Red Sox even spent. Like the Mets obviously are spending. There's just too much money going around for the Yankees, the brand image to be that attractive, especially in states, by the way, that may have more enjoyable tax benefits. So who knows, if teams are going to be spending more, the Yankees may not be able to lure guys back. Weaver's the only one that I'm like, I think he wants to be a Yankee, and I think he would stay because of that. I think Williams is going to take the first bus out of here. Personally, I don't get the sense he loves being a Yankee that much. But he's been much better as of late. Obviously, right now, I mean, you look at the depth chart for this Yankee team. Jonathan Loáisiga is injury prone. We're just kind of waiting for that to happen. Knock on wood. Ian Hamilton's been better lately. I think he's just won like 6 or 7 games straight without giving up a run, which is great for him. So, he's trying to turn things around, which is very encouraging. Mark Leiter Jr. has been bad. Tim Hill's been good. Fernando Cruz on the IL. And then you have Williams and Weaver. If you get that last third arm and you're in the World Series and, you need another guy to close and Weaver was spent and Williams is spent, you're like, oh, yeah, like we have this other guy who is a freaking star closer who can step in and be that shutdown arm for you. So
your best reliever might not be Devin Williams in that situation.
Exactly.
Or Luke Weaver. That's crazy to think about. You'd have a debate.
Imagine having that rotation.
Dude, you have it. You have Max Fried go 6 and you got Weaver, Williams, Duran. Yeah,
Dang,
game over.
Done.
Game's over. You take a 2-0
exactly.
lead, you're winning that baseball game. The Yankees take a 2-0 lead. I don't know if they're going to win that game. How many? I don't know. Look, obviously they win more of their 2-0 leads and they lose them, but I'm just saying, how much do you trust?
You see Mark Leiter trot out there, and you're like, that 2-run lead. We need more like a 4-run lead, buddy.
If you're facing the Los Angeles Dodgers and you're up 2-0 in the World Series in the 6th inning, you don't feel like the game's over. You feel like you've got to fight out the final few games. You're hanging on by a thread.
Dude, you are hanging. You are punching. You're throwing haymakers at that point because you just do not know. And like I said before, the psychological nature, if you're a volatile, spotty pitcher, if you're Ian Hamilton, if you're Johnny Lowe, if you're Mark Leiter Jr., and you're not a superstar, you're not even a star, you're just a sometimes quality reliever that is inconsistent, and you're in the biggest moment of your life, and you're trying to locate your pitch, and you don't because the moment's too big for you, which happens a lot to pitchers. Shohei Ohtani's putting that thing 500 feet in the fucking bleachers, man. Sorry. Apologies for my language, but that's what happens. We saw Freddie Freeman do it to Nestor Cortez. And by the way, you mentioned that. It drew up a lot of bad memories for me because reflecting on that moment to trot out an injured Nestor Cortez in that moment, one of the craziest decisions, I mean, obviously did not.
But again, it comes down to roster depth. That's
it
what
does.
You had. You had him and Tim Hill. That's what you had. Nuts on the line, game on the line. That's all you had left. And that's what October baseball brings. You need a plan to have 5 relievers throw out in a game. 5. You need to have 5. Ready to have 5 guys throwing a game. Unless Max Fried's out there. Unless maybe Carlos Rodon's out there. Unless there's a top 10 pitcher on the planet, they're not going 7. They're not. I doubt they're going 7. So you got to at least have 4 guys ready. You might have to have 5. Who are those 5? Williams, Weaver, hopefully Cruz. And then, man, you put up a prayer. Hill's the 4. I think Hill's the bridge between, he's not as good as Williams and Weaver, but he's probably more reliable than Mark Leiter Jr. and Jonathan Loáisiga. But he also throws 87 miles an hour, so you're still like, ooh, right? You still go, Freddie Freeman could probably hit that 700 feet, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to add there. I just reliever depth. I think it's going to matter way more than people think because that's how October kind of usually plays out.
Yeah, so, we'll see what happens in a couple weeks. We'll keep you guys updated on anything we hear. Obviously, trade packages. If you have any players that you're interested in or kind of learning more about what the comp might look like, we can do that for you as well. So hopefully, the Yankees do make some strategic moves that don't, shred our farm system, but do what's necessary to win baseball games now. You just don't know when Aaron Judge is going to stop performing like this. This is inhuman. This is alien level production. You're just waiting for it to stop. And I don't want to be caught looking when it does. You know what I mean? We didn't do enough to win when we had this. Don't take it for granted. If you're Brian Cashman, don't take this for granted. This is a once in a lifetime generational run that Aaron Judge is on. You don't want to be caught looking on the other side of it, asking yourself, how did we not win a chip when it was happening? So I do think they're going to be aggressive. like you said, nobody's really untouchable to me right now. I don't want to trade George Lombard Jr. I don't think they have to because of the prospects that are going to be, or the players that will be available at the deadline. But like Cam Schlittler, other guys, Carlos, like you mentioned, I just don't think that the Yankees need to stop themselves if it means making the team better and giving yourselves a chance to really compete for a championship. And dude, like DJ LeMahieu cannot be starting in the playoffs, and Oswald Peraza cannot be on this roster another day. Like he is the man out. He is out of here the second that they acquire an infielder. So, they need more pop in the infield to survive some of these cold stretches from players. And I mean, the outfield's tremendous. But I know Trent Grisham, a little update. He's going to try to go through warmups, see what's going on there if he can make it.
I did hear that the Wei Chuan Dragons of the Chinese Professional Baseball League might have some interest in Oswald Peraza. So, there might be a market. There might be a market there. I'm sorry, he saw. I hate to do that, but he's, it's not good. It's not good, man. He stinks.
There's going to be somebody in the comments like, Oswald Peraza is not that bad, and like I just don't know what other metrics to show you that suggests that he is a bad player offensively.
He's worse than DJ last year. Like last year, DJ was like
bad.
Last year, DJ had a 50-something WRC plus. Peraza was rocking a 43. He has 127 games with a 300 slugging percentage and a 195 average. Like
he's an expected batting average of 225, which is exponentially better than his actual batting average of 157.
And it still stinks.
225 is like, okay, this guy's not a major league player unless you're hitting like 40 home runs a season, like Stanton. And then 157 is like, you are not even a high school player. Like this is a 506 OPS, man. Like
it's just bad. And that's, people keep consistently say, why is Volpe playing every day? That's why, because their backup shortstop is not a big leaguer. Like if let's say you had, if DJ LeMahieu played shortstop, he would give Volpe not a run for his money, but he would play like every sixth day and give Volpe a day off.
Yeah.
But Peraza, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Side quest there. But yeah, look, the Yankees are going to make moves. We'll see what happens. Duran would be an awesome acquisition for this bullpen. I think ideal acquisition by most accounts, but always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. As always, my friends, feel free to drop a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.